President Trump has said tonight he won't be happy if Vladimir Putin continues to bomb Ukraine, and he insisted he was putting a lot of pressure on Russia. The US president had earlier directed rare criticism at his Russian counterpart after a missile strike flattened a Kyiv apartment block, killing 12 people and injuring more than 80, the deadliest attack on Ukraine's capital since last July. After that attack, President Zelensky called on the US to urge Russia to secure a ceasefire. Tonight in the White House, Donald Trump told reporters he was putting pressure on both countries to get them to sign a deal. We'll report from Washington on a day of contradiction from Mr. Trump and from Moscow. But first, our correspondent John Donnison sent this report about that deadly assault on Kyiv.
If peace is just around the corner, it doesn't feel like it. Russia launching its most lethal attack on the Ukrainian capital in months. Rescuers work through the night to try and recover the dead and injured. In the light of day, the damage. A residential block flattened.
I was really scared already, but when I got out of the building and saw that the house next door was completely destroyed, probably scared is the wrong word. I believe I sent the souls of all the people who died there.
Others may have been lucky to get out with their lives, but are now homeless. This is thought to have been the deadliest Russian attack on the capital, Kyiv, since last July, and it comes at a point when the United States is really ramping up pressure to try and get a ceasefire deal. But Ukrainians say it's not them who are blocking negotiations.
On the one hand, the Russians talk about peace, Russian peace, but we can see what their peace looks like.
And those under fire say America is not an honest broker.
President Trump should get lost. I want to live in my own apartment with my daughter. After work, I want to have a walk or go to the lake. So please let me do that in my own country with my loved ones.
And speaking on a visit to South Africa today, President Zelensky again rejected the idea of permanently ceding territory to Russia under any US plan. But it's Ukraine that is feeling the heat. President Trump is impatient to get a deal, but neither side seem ready to make the compromises needed to get one. John Donnison, BBC News, in Kyiv.
Well, as we said, President Trump has insisted tonight that despite that attack, a peace deal can still be reached between Russia and Ukraine. Our North America editor, Sarah Smith, has the latest from Washington.
As Donald Trump was welcoming the Norwegian Prime Minister to the White House, the focus was on Ukraine.
President Trump, sir, today you told Vladimir Putin to stop with the attacks. Do you think he'll listen to you?
I do, yeah.
Do you think there's still a chance for peace?
He is angry about the overnight bombing, posting on social media, "I'm not happy with the Russian strikes on Kyiv. Not necessary and very bad timing. Vladimir, stop." So does Donald Trump still believe that President Putin is serious about peace?
They both want peace, but they have to get to the table. We're waiting a long time. They have to get them to the table, and I think we're going to get peace.
Later in the Oval Office, President Trump did not repeat his rebuke of Mr. Putin, even when asked what he'd do if the bombing continues.
I'd rather answer that question in a week. I want to see if we can have a deal. No reason to answer it now, but I won't be happy. Let me put it that way. Things will happen.
Mr. President, why are you not putting more pressure on Russia? I know a lot of Europeans...
Putting a lot of pressure. You don't know what pressure I'm putting on Russia. They're dealing. You have no idea what pressure I'm putting on Russia. We're putting a lot of pressure.
But the American peace plan looks very much like a win for Russia. According to leaks, the deal would see Russia keep territory it now occupies in eastern Ukraine. The US would, in effect, accept these as Russian. Moscow would give up its ambition to control the rest of these 4 regions, land it's failed to secure militarily. In return, America would recognise Russian sovereignty over Crimea, which it illegally occupied in 2014. Mr. Trump argues that Ukraine will have to accept this deal as the only way to end the war, even though it is very favourable to Russia.
What concessions has Russia offered up thus far to get to the point where you're closer to peace?
stopping the war, taking the whole country. Pretty big concession.
So not taking all of Ukraine is the big concession being asked of Russia, while President Trump demands that Ukraine accepts the loss of almost 20% of its territory. Sarah Smith, BBC News, Washington.
Well, President Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, is expected in Russia soon for his fourth round of talks with Vladimir Putin. Moscow and Washington have been trying to improve relations, which has made Donald Trump popular with many Russians. And the Kremlin has been working hard to keep the US president on its side, as our Russia editor, Steve Rosenberg, reports.
Outside the US embassy in Moscow, they're still here. The symbols of Vladimir Putin's special military operation, Russia's war against Ukraine, put here to annoy American diplomats when Joe Biden was president. But it feels like something is changing. Relations with America are on the up. Take this new exhibition on US-Russian cooperation and friendship in World War II, and the moment American and Soviet soldiers met on the River Elbe in Germany. And in a Moscow bar, a homage in ham to America's current president. This is the Trump burger. Some Russians are hungry for a US leader who calls for closer ties with Moscow. It seems that in Russia, they see Donald Trump differently to other parts of the world.
He
has a better opinion of Russia than other presidents, Yevgeny says. Of course, people here like that. It means he's our guy. President Trump did criticize the Kremlin for the strike on Kyiv, but such criticism is rare from him. Moscow still believes he wants to rebuild relations. It does too.
Whatever happens with the peace talks on Ukraine, Moscow seems determined to forge a new partnership with America. There is lots of talk now about possible economic cooperation and lots of compliments coming from here. Only this week, one of Vladimir Putin's senior aides declared that Russian history textbooks would soon be featuring what he called Donald Trump's extraordinary peace efforts and his remarkable transformation of US politics.
As well as the compliments, there have been gifts. Vladimir Putin sent this portrait to Donald Trump. I meet the artist who painted it, Nikos Safronov. He says he sees President Trump as a swashbuckling pirate, and a brave one. By all accounts, Donald Trump was delighted with the present, and so the Kremlin was pleased. And so was the artist, for helping US-Russian relations.
I got a call. They put me through to President Putin. Thank you, he said. What you did was very important. We think that Trump is the man who can help end the war and bring our countries together, closer or even closer than they used to be.
Russia and America, partners again. Picture that. Steve Rosenberg, BBC News, Moscow.